He had everything: power, wealth, and influence beyond imagination. For years, this man was seen as the pinnacle of what humanity could achieve. A leader with vision, determination, and a unique ability to bend the world to his will. Rulers feared him, corporations revered him, and the masses followed him as if he were a modern-day prophet. But then, something changed. Overnight, he vanished without a trace. His absence created a power vacuum that plunged the world into chaos, but also raised unsettling questions. Why did he leave? Was it an escape, a coup, or something even darker? Rumors began to spread about strange events in the months leading up to his disappearance. The answer to the mystery seemed to lie in the events that preceded his rise to the top. Before we continue, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because in the next videos we'll explore even more mysteries you won't want to miss. Before becoming the most powerful man in the world, his story was shrouded in intrigue. He was a brilliant strategist, but few knew that there was something unusual behind his meteoric rise. Close friends reported changes in his personality over the years, while conspiracy theorists pointed to the influence of secret societies that might have funded his journey. The origin of his fortune was always a mystery, and a trip he took to a remote region seemed to be the key to unraveling the truth. It was during this trip that he found an unusual artifact, something that would change his life forever. But at what cost? The transformation he began to undergo was only just beginning, and the first signs of his disconnect from humanity began to appear. Reports about him began to change. Those who were used to dealing with a cold, calculating man now described almost primal, savage behaviors. He started to isolate himself, avoiding important meetings and keeping a smaller circle of people around him. At first, it seemed like mere signs of fatigue or eccentricity. But then, more disturbing stories emerged. One employee confided that they heard him growling during a meeting. Another claimed to have seen him wandering at night through the gardens of his estate, as if hunting for something. The climax came when he called an urgent meeting with his advisors, and instead of speaking, remained silent, staring at each of them like a predator eyeing its prey. Something was clearly wrong. What was happening to him? To understand, one had to go back to what he brought back from that mysterious journey into the unknown. It all comes back to that enigmatic trip he took years before his disappearance. Official records say it was a scientific expedition to a remote area, but undisclosed. Documents reveal something much different. During the journey, he found an ancient artifact, supposedly linked to primordial rituals of forgotten civilizations. It was a seemingly simple object, but its significance was profoundly devastating. Archaeologists who studied it described indecipherable symbols, patterns that appeared to shift when viewed from different angles. The artifact was taken to his private collection and was never seen again by anyone. But what had he discovered about the object to provoke such a radical transformation? And more importantly, was the artifact responsible, or was it just the beginning of something much larger? The mystery surrounding the object begins to connect with the strange behaviors he exhibited after his return. After his return, something peculiar began to happen. Animals started to surround his properties, first in small groups, then in packs that seemed like guardians. It was impossible to ignore the connection. Wolves prowled the surroundings, birds of prey flew low over his mansion, and even rare species of felines were spotted nearby. Scientists speculated about changes in the local ecosystems, but locals claimed otherwise. The animals were there for him. Some even said he could communicate with these creatures, and bizarre events started to be reported. Wolves howling in unison when he appeared, and birds forming patterns in the sky at his command. Was this some kind of control, or the reflection of a deeper transformation? The relationship between him and the animals was becoming more and more symbiotic, raising new questions about what he was becoming. Desperate for answers or control over what was happening to him, he sought help in ancient traditions. The answer came in the form of a shaman, a man from a nearly extinct tribe who claimed to be the last guardian of an ancient ritual. According to unconfirmed records, he would have participated in a blood ritual, something as powerful as it was dangerous. Witnesses who spied on the event spoke of chants echoing through the forest and an immediate transformation in his behavior. After that night, he was never the same. There was something profoundly animalistic in his posture, his gaze, his movements. But what did he gain in exchange? And more importantly, what did he lose in the process? The ritual did not seem to be the end, but the beginning of a change that eluded human understanding. Let's continue, but before we do, I noticed you haven't liked the video yet. If you're enjoying the content, go ahead and click that thumbs up. Shortly after the ritual, disturbing reports began to emerge from the forests near the property where he had secluded himself. Local residents heard inexplicable sounds, not just howls and roars, but something that seemed like a fusion between an animal's cry and a man's voice. Experienced hunters, who knew every corner of the region, started avoiding it, claiming that something was wrong with the animals there. Some said they saw a creature they couldn't identify, something large and fast with glowing eyes that seemed to observe every human movement. The strangest part? Tracks mixing human and animal characteristics began to appear, coming and going from places where he used to be. Was he this creature? Or was something else happening deep within that forest? The connection between the sounds and his transformation seemed undeniable, but what it meant was still far from being understood. With the growing curiosity about the artifact he had found, independent researchers began investigating its origin. In forgotten libraries and secret archives, they discovered vague references to a similar object, mentioned in ancient texts as the Primordial Connector. Supposedly, it had the ability to unite the human with its wildest essence, bringing unimaginable power at the cost of one's identity and soul. Warnings about the dangers of using it were clear, but the powerful man seemed to have ignored such alerts. The oldest manuscript found spoke of the last person who used the artifact, a king who ruled with superhuman strength, but mysteriously disappeared, being remembered only as a legend. The story seemed to be repeating itself, but in a new time and with a new protagonist. Was the artifact the key to his transformation, or just a piece in a much larger game? The transformation seemed complete, but an intriguing detail emerged in the reports from those who saw him for the last time. He was said to have been spotted wandering near the edge of a lake, staring intently at the water. Some claimed he appeared to be struggling with himself, as if trying to remember who he was. Others mentioned that the reflection in the water didn't just show his physical form, but something darker, something that didn't belong to this world. This moment raised the question: had he completely lost his humanity, or was there still a part of him fighting to emerge? The idea that the man and the beast coexisted within the same body added a new layer to the mystery. Was it possible to reverse the process, or was he condemned to be this new creature forever? So, did you already know these facts? Drop a comment if you've heard about this. Let's talk. As reports of his transformation spread, the world could no longer ignore what was happening. Governments, corporations, and even secret organizations began to mobilize, fearing what he could become. He was no longer just a man. He was something much more dangerous, something uncontrollable. Squads were sent to capture him, but none returned successfully. The few survivors spoke of a creature that seemed to anticipate their movements, using human intelligence and animal instincts to escape or attack. The forest he inhabited became a forbidden zone, but also a symbol of resistance to human control. But while the world tried to destroy him, the real question remained. Was he a threat or the next step in human evolution? What would happen if he chose to leave his isolation and face those who hunted him? With the siege closing in, he seemed to be at an impasse. Had he fully accepted his new identity, or were there still remnants of the humanity that once defined him? Witnesses close to the area where he was last seen reported unexpected behavior. He seemed to be protecting the animals around him, acting as a guardian of an ecosystem others would destroy without hesitation. But it was more than that. He seemed to be communicating something, as if trying to show a greater purpose. Was he the result of a force of nature trying to balance a world out of control? Or was his internal struggle the true symbol of a battle we all face? The choice between surrendering to instincts or embracing rationality. The decision he would make seemed inevitable, but no one knew for sure what it would be. And then, he disappeared again. Reports of his presence ceased, and the marks he left in the forest began to slowly disappear. But the story was far from over. In the place where he was last seen, something new began to emerge. A harmony between man and nature that had never been witnessed before. Nearby communities reported the return of long-extinct species. Forests once degraded began to flourish, and the sense that something was taking care of the balance hung in the air. But him? He became a legend, a symbol of transformation and mystery. For some, a warning of what happens when man exceeds the boundaries of what he should know. For others, a glimpse of a future where humanity and instinct coexist. What really happened to him? That's a question that may never be answered. And that's exactly why it remains fascinating. Thanks for watching until the end. Don't forget to subscribe to keep receiving more amazing content like this.